Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Headspace podcast. We'll be running through Ghostface Killah's Ghost Files, the Propane Tape, and the Bronze Tape. Today, my name is HSR, and unfortunately, it's Chris's birthday, so he's out having a good time, not here joining us, so it'll just be me today. If you want to skip the introduction, you can check the description of the video where you'll see a full timestamp of everything we're going to talk about today. Basically, to give you an introduction for those who are new, I'm going to run through the album, well, in this case, albums, track by track, giving you my thoughts and opinions. Normally, I do this with people, so it's always a little bit more awkward as I learn how to transition into doing these on my own. But sometimes life has it where I'm on my own. I digress. We do love all of the comments and the interactions. So I'm not really an expert on the Woo world. I plan on buying the Woo manual, reading some of their books, and kind of, as time goes on, becoming more knowledgeable on the subject. But it's been a bit of a process. We'll get a bit into that a little bit later. So I'm just saying, bear with me. And if you want to correct anything I say or add to it, feel free to leave a comment. As an example, to show how much I love the comments, I answer everybody. And last week, we talked about Benny the Butcher's new project. And on that video, Clark Townsend had to say, this album came out the perfect time. It's the winter it's the winter grimy street album that we needed. The beats fit the vibe. Yes, there is not a variance of topics, but I love this type of shit. For real, this album is a consistent street banger. It's got this authenticity that just breathes through it, and I get exactly what this dude's talking about, even if I might not perhaps understand the lifestyle per se, but I understand what the music is. This came out in 1999. It would be hyped so much. It would have an impact, but not much outside of the street underground people. And I completely get where he's coming from with that comment, because fundamentally it is that kind of album. It's just hard-hitting, grimy, consistently dope lines, wise as fuck to listen to. Honestly, super interesting. So I thought it was a great comment. I thought I got a lot of really cool comments on that video, so it was really awesome to see how much love Benny the Butcher actually gets on that. The album was Tana Talk 3. You should check that out, especially if you like Ghostface Killah, especially because he happens to be on this album, which was coincidence. I had no idea. So that's cool. Anyway, before we begin, special thanks to the patrons, Linda Williams, Super Old School 1994, Chris Prado, and Ismail Gadamsi. We'll talk a bit about that at the end of the video. And without further ado, let's get into it. Typically, I like to start these off by contextualizing how familiar we or I am with the particular artist that's going to be discussed. So in this case, Ghostface Killah. On this channel, I've gone through a couple of Wu-Tang albums. I've gone through a couple of Ghostface Killah albums. I think we've done Supreme Clientele. We've done the album Only Built for Cuban Links, which was an embarrassing review. If you check that out, forgive us in advance. And all things considered, I feel like Ghostface has personally become one of my favorite members of the Wu because of his dynamic nature, the passion of emotions he puts out, his incredible work ethic, because the number of projects this guy has dropped is absolutely ridiculous. And I do plan, maybe not on the channel, but I do plan on going through everything this man has released at some point or another over the course of my life, because I find him to be just such a fascinating, versatile person, from a deep romantic to I'll fucking kill you in the span of 2 songs. That is some interesting variation that he sells so properly. So I thought that was cool. Anyway, if you check out any of the other ones, you can hear more about how much I like or dislike Ghost. But I think we need to talk about these projects in general. So what happened is I saw that the Bronze Tape had come out, so I put that on and I prepped for that and I started reviewing that. And I tend to go through the album where I listen to it 2 to 3 times, each song, as I absorb it and try to get my feel around it. As I'm coming to the end of the Bronze Tape, I realized something. There's a Propane Tape, and then there's some Lost tapes, and I got fucking confused. So what I realized at that point, when I Googled and learned, is the Propane Tapes and the Bronze Tape is basically the Ghost Files, which is a remix album of the Lost tapes, which came out earlier this year. So I was like, oh, fuck me, right? Because at that point, I already put hours in. I was planning on starting to record this way earlier. And then, my goal was to try to not have this video go live as late as it's bound to go live today. But then I realized I would be completely irresponsible if I didn't go back and check out what Mr. Aguila, I think that's how you say it, did with the Propane Tapes. The Bronze Tapes done by Nazareth, and I did not really check the producer on the Lost tapes.
So this is really a review focusing on both the Bronze and Propane tapes. I did give the Lost tapes a quick listen, but most of my listening was done to the Bronze tape. I went through the Propane tape and listened to every second of it, taking it as serious as I took it, just maybe not as many times, because what happened here is the lyrics is kind of exactly the same. So Ghostface kind of made the Lost tapes, and with the exception of maybe two songs and like the intro and a couple of little nuances, the bulk of the tracks are exactly the same. It's like he gave them just like the raw vocal files and said, "Yo, have fun. Make your albums. Let's have a little competition or something." I don't really know how it came to be, and I don't know how often this has happened in music before, but when I was thinking about marketing strategies in general, like yesterday I talked about Big Crit a bit, and just the overall EP chopped up versus full album kind of conversation. What's a better move? Is it better to wait for the full project? Is EP smart, etc.? And then all of a sudden, a whole new variable came in, where you have Ghostface dropping a main project and then letting basically two separate remix albums come out, taking the album in two separate directions. So like when I look at my grades at the end, I actually have a favorite. I have one that I like more than the other one, but I bet you might agree with me. You might like a different one. You might like the Lost tapes more, but having spent the last like 5 hours kind of going over Ghostface, these projects, and hearing the same lyrics over, in some cases, in most cases, three separate beats, it's like, wow, hey, the consistency of the rapping is dope, but it's amazing how much the production actually just impacts my overall experience with the song. And that was really exciting. And I don't know if this has been done before, so if you guys have other examples of this that you want to share with me, where you've seen this kind of marketing done, I'd love to hear about it. What you guys think about this marketing too? Like, could this be like a new cool trend? Like, could like rappers be dropping like project version 1 and then their favorite producers dropping these entire remix experiences, maybe in some cases creating like something completely different from the original project? Side note, did you know that Run the Jewels dropped a Cat remix album as a result of a charity thing? Okay, that was just random, but yeah, let me know what you think about that. As far as the covers go, each one has a similar like style, but it kind of has a graphical element of Ghost and then like kind of cartoony and shit. And then in one case you have Bronze Nazareth, I'm assuming, and then the other case you have Aguila. And it's cool. They look like companion pieces. Like, I feel like I couldn't just buy one of these albums. I would be obliged to buy both of them. And that's a really cool thing from like an art perspective. And I like this kind of take on it. I don't know. It was cool. And it's like the Ghost Files. It's like a deeper exploration into these lost tapes. And, it's almost got like this corniness to it that I like dad joke kind of corny. And Ghostface sells that shit completely proper. Anyway, I don't have a lot more to say about it. The Propane tape makes sense because it's this guy's twist on it. The Bronze tape makes sense. It's that guy's twist on it. And otherwise, they're shared under the idea of the Ghost Files. And then the Lost tapes, I don't know. That was the original one. The cover was less significant to me. I much prefer the title on the Ghost Files projects. Okay, enough about that. I'd say it's time to start talking about these songs individually. So we're going to talk about Testify, the intro.
Testify against Tony.
All right, so I guess in this case, it's really an introduction battle between the two producers. So you're going to either like one or the other, is what I imagine, because they decided to go in extremely different directions on this. So for the Propane tape, it appears we've kind of followed in the vein of the outro of the album, a simple 1 minute-ish instrumental that kind of feels like it's a companion piece to the outro. I guess maybe going for that album circular feel where the beginning and the end are the same. I wasn't as thrilled with this introduction. I give it a 4 on 5. It's really well produced and it does feel nice and it fits the album just kind of nice, but it's just not as nice, I think, as what happened on the Bronze tape with Bronze Nazareth's twist on it. And he decided to go in what I feel is a little bit more of a classic Wu kind of feel, where he went with some samples that were kind of talking about this murderous figure, and it's just kind of alluding to this image of what a Ghostface Killah is. And I just feel like that just engaged me more, and it made me care more about what was going to come on the album. Like, it was going to be a much more exciting adventure. Now, the Lost tapes had something completely different for its introduction, and I'm not going to focus on that, but I actually like that, even the way they had the dude talking, just introducing who Ghostface Killah is. He doesn't even need an intro. I feel like that was cool. I feel like in the way of kind of using the samples in that classic Wu feel that Bronze Nazareth does on this project is a great way to start. It almost feels like it's calling to a different demographic than what Agala is doing on the other one. And I'm so sorry if I said it wrong. Feel free to correct me in the comments. And yeah, so I gave the Bronze Nazareth version a 4.25, and I really thought it was the better one to get me more hyped for this project. On that note, the following song is exactly the same vocals on all 3 tapes. Let's talk about Buckingham Palace.
Shooters, ruthless, all types of killers. Hunger Games shit, they're fighting for block space.
Alright, so the Lost Tapes version is actually my least favorite version of this beat. I feel like it's super loud and it kind of overpowers the rappers a bit. Maybe that was the point and whatnot, but from a preference perspective, since I get 3 to pick from, that's pretty cool because I actually like the Propane Tape and the Bronze Tapes beats equally in terms of how much I like them, but for completely different reasons, right? Like the Propane Tape kind of comes with this epic sounding, almost modern-esque feel, like something super dope that really catches you and engaging. It's cleaner. You can hear all the rappers maybe a little bit stronger. But on the other hand, you have this other beat that's completely more in line with that jazzy kind of feel, almost like closer maybe to what the Lost Tapes was doing with it, but kind of a little calmer, allowing the rappers to shine through a little bit more. So he kind of like chops it up in a different way and still has that jazzy element on the Bronze Tape. So I was like, damn, that's really fucking cool. That to be able to see the same rhymes, which are eloquently delivered, dropped on 2 completely different sounds, but ending up catching me in different ways to like make me equally like the beats for completely different reasons. And at the end of the day, it's really going to be the beats that are the differentiator compared to anything else, because I do think the rapping is fucking sublime. Like on this one, you have King Crooked, you have Benny the Butcher, and 38 Spesh, and they fucking all set up in like this good way. So Ghost starts us off, and everybody kind of raps in like I guess what you would expect, a ferocious lyric bar driven type wordplay thing. Bone crusher, I'm like the hood's top celebrity, long dick you chick like my rap's longevity. And that's cool. Like right off the jump, I'm not coming in this for like the super conscious or the super whatever. What I want to hear here is great rhyming and great wordplay. Like it's not necessarily the most over-the-top shit, but long dick you chick like my rap's longevity is cool because it's like flossing that his dick is basically equated in size and prowess to the overall length of his career, which, as I mentioned earlier, is already pretty ridiculous. And then, kind of what I like about Ghostface Killah in general is how just every line is like these disjointed tangents of things. Like he has ADD coming to life, but kind of all swallowing, like surrounding like a main general idea. So like, I don't know, later on in the verse, it's like sexual healing. We throw on that Marvin Gaye shit. Got 2 black burners that'll melt your facelift. Memory foam muffled the sound of the gun blast. My clan bring the heat like the summer. Check the forecast. And it's like, how do you pivot from that? How do you make such a harsh pivot? But over this beat and everything, well, either beat, make it sound so fly. Everything's super fucking clear. Like you can just, every line is eloquently delivered. Like Ghostface really does make it sound easy. And I really enjoy his wordplay because he manages to use such a diverse vocabulary to express his ideas. So even if the ideas he expresses aren't necessarily profound and new, the fact is he keeps coming up with interesting ways to phrase it. Like he really keeps pushing the frontier of how to use this language. And that's impressive to me. I really do enjoy the hook. It comes in, everybody's hard, everybody's doing their thing. That's fine. But then hearing the Benny the Butcher and like 38 Spesh verse, kind of how they go back and forth, that was really cool to me as well. I really, really enjoyed listening to that. One of my favorite parts is like, borrowed your bitch for a week. She hold my guns and bricks. I give her dick for a storage fee. That was said by Spesh, but it's just such a harsh line. It's like I was in town and I'm like, I need a lady to keep me company and do some shit for me. It's like, I don't like that, dude. Hey, honey, do some shit that's a little bit audacious, takes her, and just does it, and then he fucks her. He does no payment, just does all his work, fucks her, gets a bunch of free shit, and bounces out. Now, he doesn't have to say what that is, but he manages to describe it in a way where it's super clear what he's going for. And I really, really just dig the overall back and forth on that verse, and the overall flow. It was super fun to listen to. King Crooked blew my fucking mind though. I've had a few people point out how ridiculous he really, really is as a rapper, and I haven't really got to checking him out in full yet, but holy shit, the trickiness of his rhymes, like when he's like, I give her the hammer, I call it a blemmer, that's onomatopoeia, go look it up, you don't read books enough, that's why Crooked's up in your mama mia, I'm a G. And I'm like, damn, he's coming in with ridiculous wordplay on this verse, and he's right, maybe culture vultures won't hear him though, but if you really take the time to pay attention to how he flows, how he rhymes, the ridiculous amount of wordplay he uses, how cool he fucking sounds, how on point it is, it's like impossible to not realize how good of a rapper King Crooked really is. So I really enjoy hearing that too. Overall, I gave the two versions of 4.5. I don't know if I said that already. It was an absolute pleasure to listen to this track. Let's move on. Well, either version. I guess, yeah, it's fucking weird. It's just weird that there's two versions. So I'm not going to say that each time, I guess, hopefully. Let's talk about the Majestic Accolades.
Just a blue suede coat, a pair of Fila's, all white shit. I like that Mike Tyson.
The contrast between these two beats over on the Propane version and the Bronze Tape are ridiculously awesome, because it really is like taking these guys' lyrics. Here we have Majestic Accolades, Planet Asia, and Huff Kingpin. Sorry, not Majestic Accolades is the name of the song, Ghostface Killah. And they're kind of together. And so you have that same consistent rhymes because it's the same tapes. But holy fuck, these two beats are just so different. You have this like sleek sounding, like fucking slick ass, almost modern, completely done in like Pro Tools sounding ass beat brought to us on the end of Agala, which I think it's honestly my favorite version of this song, just because of how amazing it builds up and flows in. On the other hand, you have a more traditional sounding beat for those who might want to have that more classic sound coming from Bronze Nazareth, which I really liked, but I didn't like it as much. So for me, it's kind of the lesser one. But then in this case, when I listened to the Lost Tapes version, I was like, yo, this beat's also really good. But it was kind of an in-between of the two. So that's kind of where I'm at with the beats. In terms of the track, it's like you just got this powerful sense of verses, but you also have this hitman kind of talking at the end of the last one, this kind of sample of him, and it like flows into the beginning of this one, just this guy kind of recollecting on his past life, etc. And I kind of thought that was a really, really cool way to start it. But then it's, again, a lot of wordplay and a lot of puns. My absolute favorite from Ghostface Killah being Big Shit Son, slicked out like the ruler. And I was like, that's cool, because Slick Rick is the ruler. I got that reference, and I felt kind of cool for a second, because sometimes I read these lyrics and I'm like, breaker 19, copy that Kinko's bagged up flamenco, gave her the mandingo. I get the general sense of what's going on here. I get why these are good lines in terms of the rapping side of it. I get why it rhymes, etc. Met her on first, amazing. I bounced on Cinco, no Coronas, no lime, no spring break tequila. I kind of get that that's kind of a spring break thing. Cinco de Mayo, maybe. I don't really know what the fuck he's talking about. I don't really care that much because he sounds good saying it over this beat. And when I do get it, I feel really cool. And then that's fine. As time, I feel like I'll be able to better decipher this guy's bars. But in general, I've been really enjoying listening to him. I like how the chorus of this track kind of seems to focus on wordplay being the weapon, being the severity of it. And now he's tight with it, which I agree. And I really enjoy the overall use of everything on this track. Planet Asia comes in and just follows it proper. I don't have a lot to comment in terms of specific lyrics, but I really enjoyed the overall flow. I felt it was extremely consistent next to Ghostface, and it was enjoyable. Like, the features on this project are extremely well chosen, and I feel like everyone complements the track that they're on, which is an extremely rare thing in terms of this type of album where it is so feature heavy. And then Huss Kingpin does the same thing, comes in at the last one. I really enjoyed his verse as well. I don't have a lot to really say about it, but in general, I feel like this is a very well-rounded song that follows up the first one. If you're really into that bar-driven hip-hop, that stuff that modern old men say doesn't exist anymore, then, well, this came out in 2018, and y'all should check that out. For my grading here, I basically gave the Bronze Tape a 4.25, the Lost Tapes a 4.35, and the fucking other one a 4.5. So sorry about that, folks. Anyway, let's jump into the next one, which is Cold Crush.
Andre, splash of pineapple with a whole glass of Bombay.
I can't see a real difference between the Propane Tape and the Bronze Tape on this one in terms of production. There might be, and if I sat there and really listened to them back to back for like 15, 20 minutes, I might be able to like catch nuance differences. But they basically do the exact same thing with it, which is cool. But I do like the original beat on the Lost Tapes better. That is my favorite one of the 3 beats. In terms of the song, it's really good. Comes in, it's the same kind of thing for this album. There are a couple songs that maybe stand out and approach different subjects, but in Cold Crush, we're in each guy kind of flexing and dropping their lines in their own ways. My favorite line from Ghostface is when he's like, I ain't a janitor, I'm a giant like Andre. And full disclosure, I couldn't find the lyrics to this online, so I did what I could in terms of cherry picking lyrics I thought were really cool. The second verse comes in, and I'm not sure who it is because, again, the lyrics weren't online, so I tried. Flexing on the gram, IG posing. I thought that was such a cool idea, and just in general, this idea of social media, and it gets brought up a few times, and how this is now something to brag about in a hip hop song. Because in this context, he's bragging, but he's pointing out that over Instagram, he's dropping fresh posts and shit. Like, this is a flossing point. And I was like, damn, I've never heard that before, but cool. Like, it flowed well and it really fit. In the third verse, I really liked where he's like looking Canadian Monopoly, because I guess he's got lots of different monies and whatnot, and our money's color, sure, and Monopoly money's color. But I also liked how a little on he's like pissing on the money. It's a trickle down economy. Like, that's a fucking great line though. Like, because he's pissing on money and he's like peeing, which then has like a trickle and it trickles down after you're done. I thought that was fucking clever. I know that on Genius somebody would flag that as like restating the lyric, but I thought it was just fun. Like, there was these little, every time I would hear these songs, like this little thing would like pop out of me like that, and I thought that was enjoyable. I also like this kind of cool way of like edging out underground lyrics. Like, here's an underground bar leaking like pop lines, these snitching to the law, etc., etc. And I don't have it all quoted exactly, but just the idea of this is my underground bars, you know, like I'm coming in proper and real, but at the end of the day, it sounds so fresh, it may as well be like pop lines, etc. And then when you look at these pop stars, it's like everybody snitching and doing a bunch of other shit. I don't know. That's kind of where my mind ran with that. I thought it was super fun to listen to. But the last verse, and I believe this one is Chris Rivers, who I believe is Big Pun's son, and I think that was my favorite verse on this. It was super tricky. It got really lyrical, like syllable powered through, and I really wish I could have followed along with everything proper. I didn't have enough time to really digest it properly, but I thought it was a standout verse on this project. So if there's nothing else, for those of you who like the tricky shit, check out Cold Crush, check out Chris Rivers' verse here at the end. I think this might be a song that you really fucking ride to in terms of just nice flows and everything like that. Kass is also on it. L.A.D, Darkman, they and Harley are involved in this track. I'm not 100% sure who does what part, but I know all of these names and I respect them all. I'm starting to get into Kass a bit. I've seen L.A.D Darkman a couple of times, but altogether, again, there's so many different people involved in this track, but you're left with this extremely, extremely well-rounded experience. Now, I wasn't as thrilled with the beat compared to the performances. Like, the rappers were fucking substantial, and the beats on both of these tapes were like, okay, so I gave each song a 4.25, because like I said, they sound kind of the same to me. But on the last tapes, the beat was significantly more improved, something way more to listen to. So if you were going to cherry pick the best versions of the song, I'd recommend checking out the last tapes version of this one first. It's a 4.5 for that one. Really fucking liked it. Anyway, the next little track is Put the Ghostface on It, a little interlude for y'all.
Almost like in one of those chambers like that. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, this one on both of the Ghost Files versions has a little bit of an announcer kind of going, in the Bronze Tapes, there's a little bit of announcer kind of going on about success, etc. And then Ghostface kind of talks some real to us, kind of pointing out how at the end of the day, at this point in his career, you know, he's got a couple more street albums in him for everybody and that they're going to come, etc. But after that, the only music he really wants to create is significant stuff that means stuff to him, stuff on love, maybe stuff on God, different subjects that he wants to really explore into almost something new and evolving it. I put PR in my notes, but the Propane version, it's kind of cool. It's got a different sample. It feels a little bit different, but I ultimately didn't like the backing track just aesthetically as much as I enjoyed the Bronze Tapes one here. And the original one, I kind of liked it less than the other two. So as far as I'm concerned, the Bronze Tape is the right one to listen to for Put the Ghostface on it in terms of the best experience. But overall, it's cool because it's like Ghost takes some time away from the rapping to kind of explain to the fans, almost like a Patreon update video or some shit like that. Like, hey guys, this is what's coming up in the next little bit, but I'm priming you now. You're going to see a transition, getting a little older, want to do some different things. So overall, I gave this a 4.25 on that first one. I think I said that already. I really enjoyed it. And I thought it was a great interlude. It was something cool to like digest. Like, I mean, there's a fuck ton of this guy's music out there, but the fact that this came out now and overall has this consistent vibe and there's so many variations, I find it just truly fascinating. Anyway, the next one is again stacked with fucking features. Let's talk about Saigon Velour.
Go in your mouth, orthodontics, globally iconic, Dr. Dre the chronic.
All right, so this one's pretty cool again. As far as the versions go, my absolute favorite versions of this is kind of a tie between the Bronze Tapes and the original one on the Lost Tapes. They're fucking good. The beats are really cool to listen to. And in both cases, E40 sounds nicer. But then you have the Propane Tape. And here I feel like the beat's a little more on the grimy, grating side. And on the other hand, I also understood that it's almost like we're getting the same song panned out for different fan bases. And it's such a fascinating thing because for everyone that I'm not liking more, that I'm liking less, somebody else out there has a version of this very song that they're going to be liking more that maybe it's not as much for me. But that's cool because now I can, again, like I said, kind of make the version of this album that I like best. And that's so fucking cool. Either way, it starts off with Ghostface Killah, and he's just kind of doing his thing again. Walk down the block like it's 76 pimp robe fur hat just to match my kicks and my chains like 80 pounds of frozen ice. I got 4 bitches with me, don't need to look twice. I mean, to me, it just feels like standard flossing rhyming throughout this track. But this is the Ghostface Mob Boss, like, elaborate version. I believe L.A. the Dark, I think is that L.A.D, L.A. the Darkman. I don't really know. I just see L.A.D. This is the credits. I could have Googled this. I didn't, so sorry. But he comes in on the next verse. It's not really written down, but I mean, it's not on Genius. Like I said, there was stuff, but I just kind of wondered why somebody would write out the other verses, but not write out his verse. Anyway, Snoop Dogg comes in, and that was very pleasant because he has that typical kind of on the gangster-esque version of him, which is cool. Like, I kind of thought it was a bit funny when he's like, the homie said 911 is a joke, fuck the police, and I believe that, so I protect and serve every on the block, that's my word. And I mean, at first it was kind of goofy, but if you consider where he comes from, it's really cool that he decided, in light of the environment, to offer protection and to almost handle a situation where the police won't, and to kind of clean up the area using his influence for the powers of good. And that's a different type of boss. That's a different type of thing. And you really feel the Snoop Dogg flair throughout it. So I think it's cool. I think it's nice. This is one of my favorite versions of him. It was it was a great verse. I enjoyed listening to it, but I think for me, E40 stole the show. And it's because E40 has that voice that just kind of comes in, and he does like this really, really slow verse that starts off with like, guard at the gate, live in a mansion, rap career longer than an extension, still hold it in court, got my wine at the World Report, or should I say DuPont Registry. And it's cool to like have him come in, and then he kind of flips into like the faster, hotter thing. But the overall feel of this song is you have this OG legendary status of different areas dropping these different styles combined over different styles of beats. It's really an engaging and fun track to listen to, in my opinion. I gave the Bronze Tape version and the Lost Tapes a 4.5, and I gave the Propane Tape version a 4.25. So that's where I'm at with that. You can pick between which one, and again, throughout this, let me know which versions of these tapes you like the best. But the next one may be one of the cooler ones, and regardless of projects. So let's talk about Constant Struggle.
My foot in the maze, this labyrinth is bad for strength. Push my pad to his limb.
So like this one didn't have the lyrics online, so I couldn't really do as deep a dive as I would have liked. But each version of this track's instrumental does something very different. Now, a huge benefit for the Bronze Tape, and I haven't mentioned it enough, is how a lot of the songs follow through with the samples. So in this case, the beat kind of starts off with people maybe discussing what it's like to be rich, or how being rich and achieving that goal and finally getting it left them feeling vacant and void, like a void inside of their soul. And that's kind of at the beginning and the end, and then it's kind of got this haunting beat. Meanwhile, you have the Propane Tape, which really kind of goes in with adding some haunting vocals, like this chilling girl voice to it, which I thought, again, it took it in such a different direction. So the samples and the commentary brought it one way. This like different twist on the beat, it was eerier, it was scarier almost, considering what the subject matter is, and it brought it in that whole direction. But then if you go back to the Lost Tapes, you got a different kind of vocals in the beat and some of the craziest percussion that you're going to find across any of the albums. And I'm like, holy fuck, I love all three of these beats absolutely equally. Now let's talk a little bit about the song. This song is an absolute standout to me. And the reason I say that is because it's really approaching a specific subject, whereas the rest of it was more flossy or kind of in the vein of, I guess, that typical stuff. This is really approaching, I guess, a more granular approach of, I guess, the constant struggle of not feeling free because of the being trapped by success. Ghost kind of walks us through, like, he knows he's a free man, but at the same time, he's like not able to go to the store or stand in the rain or do anything at all. And then he kind of like, in light of all of this, understanding the world that he's chosen, says shit like, spend your money on your health so you can live longer. And he just focuses on how to like cope a little bit with this paparazzi driven thing. Like, I can't imagine a life where I can't go to the streets, but I can imagine what it's like to not have privacy for a minute, because I went to Pakistan through my work to go do some shit, and since I didn't like speak Urdu, and I spent a lot of time where I like couldn't even go to a store by myself because I needed somebody to come with me, and everywhere I went and everything I did, it was like I was chaperoned. I know it's not quite the same thing, but it allowed me to empathize with a little bit what it's like to not be able to go to a store with a hood up and just be like invisible because you're like half asleep and don't want to talk to anyone. To not have that option, because everywhere you go, someone's going to be like, yo, what's up? I want your autograph and shit. And it's like fucked up. I mean, it's probably like cool at first, but it probably gets like fucked up. And then I like both Bishop Lamant and Killa Priest, but I couldn't tell who did which verse. But in the second verse, I like how we kind of focus in about social media and like this heavy emphasis on this personal desire to grow. Just the idea of like, I'm aging beautifully or whatever. I thought that was cool, like as you get older and wiser and whatever. And I thought that was nice. And in the last verse, it kind of breaks down a lot of the corruption, like history. Don't count the lives that evil done took. But God says forgive, though, but I can't forget the ghost of, I don't know what he said, but that was like really powerful. It was like, because I've been learning more about history, and I know some people like to call it black history. I just like to call it history, like the honest one, and not like what really happened, and not the bullshit history that gets taught in schools and whatnot. So I agree there's a difference, but I've been learning a lot about actual history with an effort to educate, and it's just like, I can understand that kind of paranoia. Like, we see over information causes numbing sensation, keeps depression and homicide escalation, and then it flows into a bunch of separate ideas of how we're enslaved through addiction and stuff. And gosh, this one just hit me in the right way. Deep, philosophical, got me thinking. Three amazing versions of this track. All things considered, I think this is an absolute standout for you conscious ones out there, you know, fans who like the deep philosophy shit. I get this a 5 on 5. But I want to, before we move on, point out, but it's incredible how Ghostface Killah is that versatile, that on top of all the other street shit, on top of this, he really can do anything. He's one of the most versatile dudes out there, and no matter what subject matter he's on, he sells it with the same level of quality and authenticity. And I know I might be sounding like a bit of a Ghostface stan, but I do think that the dude deserves some serious props for the level of output he can consistently put out, because it's not like you listen to stuff and go, oh, that sucks. I don't know, maybe some of the mixtapes aren't the greatest. That's what I saw on the internet. I haven't heard them all, but he is a consistently amazing rapper who I think deserves more love. Anyway, well, I mean, he has tons of love, but I mean more love for his modern work. Like, this album should be getting more love than, say, a lot of other shit that come out this year. I digress. Let's move on then to Done It Again.
I can walk you through my farmland, trees of marijuana. We can laugh to the.
All right, so on this one, I can say that I enjoyed the Propane Tape. Fuck, it's hard to remember. The Propane Tape one, the absolute best. I think it fit the overall theme of the track more. It had like a smoother vibe, and it was the nicest one to listen to in terms of beat. But at the same time, I also definitely enjoyed the Bronze Tape version because it had that romance feel to it. It had like that vocals in it that kind of added to it. So they kind of went in different ways, and it was pretty even, but I'm giving the slight win over to the Propane Tape. Both of them were absolutely better than the last tape. Now, before we talk about the absolute romantic that is Ghostface Killah, I want to point out that Wetter Than a Coral Reef is a weird fucking lyric. Sometimes I take these lyrics a little bit too seriously. I can't remember who said it. I know I have it kind of in front of me, but still. Wetter Than a Coral Reef is just the weirdest fucking line. It's just like, I don't know, a coral reef is like this plant thing or whatever that grows in the ocean. So I guess it's technically true. It's technically like wetter. That's a fair enough statement. But at the same time, it's not exactly like it could be dry because you could chop it off the ground, which is bad. You don't want to do that. It's dying and we're trying to save it. But you could chop it off the ground and put it in like a dry environment, and now it's a dry coral reef. So because of that, it's kind of a weird line to me. Now, that was an odd tangent, I agree, but I did want to say that scientists have found a way to create a serious amount of growth in the coral reef, and it's super important that this is shared and that people care about, you know, the oceans and stuff, because bad shit's happening, and we should care because we don't want to get to a bad place. Environmentally rant over, but you really see Ghostface here being so romantic. Like, you know that he listens to women. And I mean, I've heard a lot of different rappers put on a lot of different versions of Game. But what you can tell about Ghostface Killah is he knows how to say the right thing, because he basically says what women want to hear in a moment when he's there. Like, can I have 5 seconds of your time? How you feeling? I care about you is the very beginning. It's all about you. He takes the entire focus and makes it about her, and basically asks for consent right off the jump, showing a matter of respect. So from the very beginning, Ghostface gives up the power for her, whereas other guys are like, I'm cool, I'm the best. Ghostface makes it about a woman, and then he references a bunch of shit she's gonna like that Bath and Body Works, that hazelnut vanilla, I would fly you across the country to Coachella. Like, on the real, that might not sound like the most masculine shit to go ahead and do, but if you're trying to romance a woman, damn, Ghostface Killah knows what the fuck is up. And then you have him on the chorus just kind of singing it out. And then depending on the album, I think the verses change order, but Stylistik Jones has a really decent verse. He comes in through, and I really enjoyed it. But I enjoyed it less than Ghostface because he sounds like cool. It kind of sounds, we focus more on what he wants to be doing in this moment, as opposed to it being like how Ghostface makes it about the lady. He's just a great romantic. Cappadonna's good. Again, Capadonna, he's a solid rapper, and I really enjoyed it, but I don't know. I feel like he's not as romantic as Ghostface either, albeit enjoyable. But I like stuff like She With Me Right Now, She Been With Me For a Week, and Ladies Love Donna Mike, The Way That I Teach. I'm like, okay. Other cats give him dust and be feeding him anthrax. I cuddle with him, cook for him, buy him the land back. I'm like, wait, did you just say that other dudes poison the women with like the white anthraxy shit? Meanwhile, you're so sweet and you buy them blind? I mean, I'm not hating. I just thought it was a very weird set of lyrics. I enjoyed it. There's nothing wrong with this track, really. I do think Ghostface is the standout verse, and the rest of it's okay, I could live without it. But I'm not that into the women's songs in general, so that's just my opinion. But Bronze Tape and Propane Tape equally get a 4.25. Lost Tapes get a 4.1. And why don't we move on then to another little interlude with the reflections of C.R.E.A.M.
Radio's different. You know, it ain't the same. Like, we really came out with Queen right now. We never got.
I think the Bronze Tape absolutely hits this little interlude better than the other ones. It has a stronger beat with some vocals laced into it that is really nice to listen to. Otherwise, the Lost Tapes and the Propane Tape are equally fine to me. I don't know which of those two I like better between them, but they're okay. Overall, this one kind of has Ghostface Killah reflecting on the game a bit. And just talking about how shit, like if C.R.E.A.M had dropped today, There's like no fucking way it would have popped. And it's funny, so I was having a conversation about Eminem, and I'm like, I wonder if Eminem had come out in like 2018, or if the internet was in the same way back in the 90s and the game was the way that it was, where you could do any kind of whack shit, or you could do kind of anything, would it pop? I mean, Eminem's right now dropping these a cappella freestyles, and it's like, okay, I don't know that that works so well in 2018, but I think Cream is a brilliant song. I think it's amazing. It's like, it's one of those songs where, for me, I hear it and it just oozes this classicness and this amazing things to it. But part of that is it's on, like, Enter the like 36 Chambers is on like every fucking list. Everybody knows that Wu-Tang is not something you fuck with. Everyone knows that this is great. So it's almost like everyone goes and listens to Cream because they have to at this point. It's almost ridiculous to call yourself like a Wu fan in any way and not go out there and hear Cream. But if he had dropped it today and we end up in this moment where nobody cares about it because it's not that trending sound, regardless, that it would be equally dope. It would be equally the same song. And knowing that it wouldn't pop is kind of crazy, all things considered. And he made me think about that. And when he did it on the Bronze Tape, I was feeling a 5-on-5. The other two made me feel a 4. Somehow the beats just didn't back it up in the right emotion. But when he did it on the Bronze Tape, I was like, fuck, this is the best interlude thing. I highly recommend checking it out. I enjoy the thinking about stuff like how accessibility, like the fact is, I don't know that I would have been allowed to review hip-hop in the market 20 years ago. I'm a nerd. I'm not really that kind of guy. But in 2018, I can get in behind this webcam and put the mic in my fucking face. And because I can afford the gear, I can produce the videos and et cetera, et cetera. And in the same way, my review might even be part of the subject of what he's talking about here. So I thought it was just fun to think about because it kind of is watching the transition of the music industry, but coming from a point of a mature person trying to give an honest perspective. And that's so amazing and cool to think about. Anyway. The next one has a stacked fucking roster again. It's Watch 'Em Holla.
Sent the overtold to persuade them, walked them outside, tossed them in the truck, and then we slide. Got to the
I don't know why, but I really like the Propane Tape version a little bit better on this one. But I'm talking about a little bit. This is one of the best songs on the album, regardless of the version. I gave the Lost Tapes version and the Bronze Tape version both a 4.5, but I had to go with my favorite one here on the Propane with a 4.6. It's just a slightly different twist on it. Like, it's more of a smoother, edgier. Like, with the Bronze Tape, you feel like it's a stronger, more direct assault. But with the Propane, you feel like it's a little bit more of a laid-back, cool, like what I picture the Wu-Tang to be kind of assault. I don't know. That's a stupid way to explain it, but that's how I felt. Raekwon's here, starts us off, and I just love it. Like, I almost feel like there was more Raekwon on this project because he just does this amazing verse. He was a serpent. Too many foul moves was made. No love amongst the wicked. Got to get his head served. I caught him in Miami. I was heavily armed. Blew an ounce of that blue dream. I'm ready and calm. So ever. Somebody fucked him over. He's in Miami, blazed out of his mind, ready to do what he's got to do. And he rolls on through and, like, kind of tells his little tale. And it's really, really good to listen to. And I mean, it's of the same quality of everything else on this project. If then you got the chorus, which is just never the same, your hood, the God's bail, you know, never the same, it just repeats, which is cool. And it's got like this thing, it's almost like, you know, once the Wu rages on through your hood and they wreak havoc on you and you fuck with them, etc., you will never be the same again. At least that's what I took from it. Ghostface comes in and he does a very strong verse as well. There's nothing really on here that I thought was like next level in terms of quotable lyrics that made me think. They gave me enough to talk about, okay? It's not that anything was bad. So sometimes if I don't elaborate, it's really just, I don't want to sound stupid making shit up because I don't fully understand the culture and I'm doing my best to just appreciate it. Masta Killa, though, it's the same old bullshit. Y'all respect ignorance. I'll split your fucking head with quickness. Show and prove intelligence about my business. As far as I can remember, it's been gangsta. And I love how that one starts because that I can relate to. Everybody likes pop bullshit. I mean, people love to throw out how Frank Sinatra is a classic, but really he's just like a glorified version of what like fucking, I don't know, Nicki Minaj is today. They're not that different, all things considered. Sex symbols to push pop music for the sake of whatever. So this has always been around, and people like ignorance. People like blind metrics. So like you won't believe how many people care about a view count but don't know what an average watch time is, or people don't understand how to interpret data. So they look at these like I fucking love science video articles and start talking like scientists, even though the sample size is like 85 people and not even representative as shit. So it's interesting to just see how people are kind of dumb, but I like the demand of intelligence and how he consistently has handled himself effectively throughout his career, and he's fucking great. And I thought his verse was considered. And Capadonna, fuck, I love this dude. He's one of the best, not no homo. I don't know if we say no homo anymore. Whatever, I don't care. Y'all can think what you want. Anyway, he's got a strong verse, and he follows suit entirely. I really enjoy listening to it. I kind of like at the end when he's like, doing hot shit, going through hell. Police pop my homie. Now it's time to rebel. Real, no matter what. Don't tell. And I enjoy the fact that, like, even now they still have this touch to, like, this pulse to, like, the real issues that are going on. So it's worth it to kind of point out how the police are still killing their friends, how there's still this feeling of passionate rebellion, how there's still this energy that needs to be expressed, even in 2018, even now. And that's amazing, because at the end of the day, I think music is a powerful platform to really rally behind and create that kind of energy. So that's cool. Anyway, I give my grades on this one. Y'all can let me know what you thought in the comments. Meanwhile, let's move on and talk about N.W.O, a brand new one for this project.
History. Let's get this party started. Get the liquor flowing. Burn that wound.
This one is like a new one for this album, as in it wasn't on the Lost tapes. And honestly, I can't find a huge difference between the two beats enough for me to be able to say anything. So let's give like one grade for this one. They're both really good versions of this. This is a strong song. It features Tragedy Khadafi, who I think does the bulk of the verses, although I may be wrong. I quoted down some shit because he's got this overall desire to stay pure, grind hard, achieve, but he says some interesting shit along the way, like the richest country in the world with no health care, and these felonies that can't get no help here. All is fair in love and war, and then a couple lines. They cut in programs and closing down more, or maybe I'm just paranoid about the West and their history, and a couple other things. And like you get this sense of this honest flow of what it must feel like to be in an environment where you feel that the government doesn't care about you, or that the systems are being cut to attack you and your people, even though like you may have expectations put on you to care about it. And it kind of like, N.W.O's New World Order. So if you think about a lot of the protest movements over history, the goal has been to take the status quo and to create a new world order. And I think that the passion and the lyricism in this song and the topics covered follow on through the whole way on. The chorus is fantastic. Ghostface follows up proper, and in the end, this is a really amazing standout track in my opinion. It's politically charged, it's super interesting, and I wish the lyrics were online so I could quote more of it at you. I give this a 4.75. Really enjoyed it. Why don't you let me know what you thought about it? I think it's a great addition to this project, and then we can move on to Wiseman Liberty, the outro. I don't actually think there's a difference between the two of these outros, but they really fit this project in my opinion. It's like this 1 minute, 13-second little jazzy interlude thing. A lot of brass instruments, and it's almost like after going through this album where you get that classic New York feel. You get that classic. I feel like that's what they're trying to do on this album. Go back to like that middle of the 90s sound, but do it in a way that kind of maybe works in 2018, at least with these remixes, and have a couple of variations of it, but it definitely accomplishes that. And one of the things I believe from back then is you would take that last track and let your like DJ or whoever just play an instrumental to let everything kind of resonate, to let everything kind of seep in. And I think it accomplishes that goal extremely well. It's not my favorite sound, but it's extremely well produced, and I gave it a 4.25, and it's a cool way to end out the album, but that isn't exactly where the album ends, because we get another little comparison between the two with the Press Rewind remix.
Like an eagle with a sharp sword, lion-hearted, every barb in a large roar.
This is another one where I'm not 100% sure I see a huge difference between the production on these tracks. I don't know if they were supposed to be, but I really like this. It's a really good outro, kind of following suit. Big Stat really, really fucking shines. You feel like this struggle of like trying to pop off now, of having to compete with the vast volume of people out there, the amount of fake fuckers. I like the lines like how he keeps his circle small like the center of a dartboard. You get the sense that he's really trying to take the wisdom principles, apply them to his life, surround himself with the right people, and embrace this long grind, because the passion inside of him is so deep that it will never, ever, ever end. And then you also have Bronze Nazareth and Agala both on this track, which I thought was pretty fucking cool because it gives each of the producers an opportunity to show up and kind of, be there, considering they both contributed to this project in their own way. And I really liked how they both came in with their passion, etc. But I could not tell you which one was which. Whoops. Ghost was great. He started it off with a nice small verse and handed it off to everyone else. Overall, I thought this was a nice end to the album, but it was more like a good bonus track. It didn't feel like it belonged on the project. It was nice as a bonus track. Not counting it as part of the album officially is I guess, now I'm being redundant, but it felt like a little bit of a step down in terms of the overall quality of some of the better ones, but it definitely fit right in with this project, so I gave it a 4.25. I thought it was really fucking cool to listen to, and yeah, so I would recommend it. Before ending out, I did want to point out that on the original version of the Lost Tapes, instead of N.W.O, you got I Think I Saw a Ghost, which features Rainwolf singing beautifully, Luke Holmat, Sleek Louch, and Vic Spencer, along with Ghostface, rapping over this awesome guitar-driven beat. If you're into that rock beat fusion type shit, go check that out. It's fucking dope. I get out a 4.5. I kind of wish it was on this project, so I threw it in here as a little bit of a footnote. But on that note, let's wrap this up. Let's talk about each project as a whole. In general, I think the Bronze Tape is the one that I liked the more. 4.42 on 5. I give the Propane Tape a 4.259 on 5. Now, while the rapping is absolutely consistent, it makes both of these albums just elevated instantly. The overall choices that Bronze Nazareth made, especially with the use of samples, with the kind of making me feel more like I was listening to a Wu project, like that Hitman guy comes in multiple times, I don't know, it just felt cool. And it was excellent voice clips. Everyone that got used at any point in the song fit absolutely perfectly to help build more of the narrative of it, like talking about success and shit right before Ghostface comes in as like a clip. On the other hand, I think that Propane Tape had, maybe as a whole, it was a little bit less good, but it had a few places where it really just shone, it shined a lot more than the Bronze Tape because it added like these modern twists into it, which really brought the projects in different ways. I didn't really give a grading for the Lost Tape because I didn't give it as much of a serious listen as the other two, but I definitely like that one less than these two. I like both of these projects more. So I thought it was just so cool. Again, I can't emphasize how amazing it is to really take the time to be able to listen to the same set of lyrics over like 3 completely separate beats, get 3 completely separate feels, and end up at a place where you are leaving these albums with different grades. Now, I know I gave virtually everything on this channel over a 4, but for me, the difference between a 4.42 and a 4.25 is fucking significant. 4.42 is very much approaching like classic amazing albums, whereas a 4.25 is more in the realms of like, this is a really good project. So just to give you an idea of that. Anyway, that's what I thought about this. I hope y'all enjoyed this. You can let me know in the comments what you thought about this idea of marketing. I would love to hear what you think. I'm sorry I didn't go too deep into the lyrics. I've decided when it's like super gangster-esque and I really don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, I'm going to gloss over what they're saying a little bit and focus just on how much I enjoyed it. Anyway, I hope you did too. I want to give a special thanks to the patrons, Super Old School 1994, Linda Williams, Ismail Gademsi, and Chris Prado. They support this. They want to see us grow. So if you want to help us there, you can join the request pool where you get to choose what we review. On top of that, when you sign up, you will once a month, it comes from Patreon, and then when you sign up, you get a free album review that will do whatever you want the following month, and then you join in the line for your turn in the request pool. You also get access to content early. We'll soon have a Discord to get a better bridge of communication between us. There'll be linked to Patreon in some way, and we'll have new ideas as time goes on. If you're not down for that, to continue my sales pitch, you can hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and leave me a comment. I promise I will answer every comment you leave if you love me or you hate me. And I dropped a project recently, and I saw it on Spotify, iTunes, and all that good shit. You can get the Spotify link down below. It's The Alternative Grand by me. So anyway, if you want to check that out, let me know what you think. That's also cool. I'm done with the self-promo. I got a couple more bonus episodes hopefully coming out to y'all soon. So I hope you enjoyed this. Peace.